Do you want to learn how to play City of the Great Machine in the easiest way? Let me show you how. Hi players, bonjour from Paris, my name is Asaf Hirsch and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I'm going to show you how to play City of the Great Machine by German Tikhomirov. This is a 1-to-4 player game of one versus many. We have here hidden movement, we have here action selection, and all of that is wrapped with a very cool steampunk kind of theme of a floating flying city. As always, if you saw something that you like, if you learned something new, please subscribe to the channel. This is an absolutely free way to help me out and I will appreciate it a lot. Like the video and leave me a comment. Let me know which kind of a game you want me to do next time. Ready to burn the city or to advance the master plan? Let's go to setup. Alright guys, so the first thing that you need to do is to set up the districts. Now, I've used the preset from page 10 in the reference guide, but you can customize it however you want if you just keep 3 rules. So the first rule is that each district may be placed horizontally, okay, or vertically. As you see here, there's nothing diagonally or something like that. The second thing is that each district must be connected to at least 2 other districts. And the third rule is that there should never be a situation that if you remove a district, the city is going to break apart into 2 unconnected parts. So if we're going to look over here, for example, there cannot be a situation like this, that if I'm removing this district, the city is going to break to 2 unconnected parts. The second thing that we need to do is to take all the famous citizen tokens. We're going to give them a good shuffle. As always, this is the best shuffle that you'll see on YouTube. And we're going to put them on these bluish highlighted squares. Now, pay attention over here that every time that we want to put a famous citizen token, it's going to be face down, of course, and it's going to cover in a way that the only thing that is visible is this corner over here of the square, okay? It's also in the shape of a famous citizen. Let's do it right now for all the board. Now, the rest of the 3 tokens that we have, we're going to put it right now aside. We're not going to see which famous citizens they are. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. The next thing that we want to do is to take all the guard figures and place them in each district in this place, and we're going to have 2 in each district. Now we need to choose the roles. So on this side, we're going to have the player that is going to be the Great Machine. Now, in a game of 1 versus 3, we're going to have each player control a different hero. If this is a 1 versus 2, each player is going to control 1 hero and they're going to have a mutually controlled hero. And if this is 1 versus 1, of course, we're going to have 1 player controlling all the 3 heroes. Next, we'll take the progress board and we're going to set 2 things on it. The first one is the master plan pointer, which is this one right over here. Now, if the person who's playing the Great Machine is a very experienced player, he's going to set it on number 1. If the experience of the person who's playing the Great Machine and the heroes is pretty much the same, it's going to be on number 2. And if this is relatively a new player, then he's going to set it on number 3. The next thing that we want to do is to set the discontent pointer, which is this dial right over here. Now we have 3 options to start the game. If the game is 1 versus 3, we're going to set the dial over here. If this is 1 versus 2, over here. And if this is 1 versus 1, over here. This is pretty much the game's way to say that if you're playing 3 players as the heroes, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to take decisions. So here's a little boost to start the game with. After that, we're going to create the city event deck. So we have 3 types of cards. The first one is city event with number 1. The other one is city event number 2. And the third one, which is unique, the city event, the countdown. So how we're doing this deck? Super simple. This card, which is unique, we're going to put at the bottom of the deck. Then we're going to take all the cards, we have 10 from city event number 2. We're going to give them a good shuffle. And then we're going to take only 6 cards. So I already did it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. And we're going to put it on top of the countdown. And we're going to do the same thing with the city event number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to put it on top of a city event number 2. Now for the Great Machine, we're going to take the 3 servant miniatures and we're going to put them in the Grand Citadel. They're a little bit darker, so it's going to be easy for you to recognize them. We're going to take the Directive deck, which is 9 cards that look like this. And we're going to give them a good shuffle again. And we're going to place them on the side of the Great Machine. So let's put it right over here. Then we're going to take 3 raid tokens. Then we're going to take the 3 servant order tokens, and they're going to help us track if we already did an action with someone and with whom. So every time we did an action with a servant, we're just going to flip it on the other side. For the revolutionaries, we're going to take, first of all, the hero cards. So we need to choose out of the heroes that we have, either randomly or if there's a hero that you want to play with after a few games or something like that. I've chosen over here the veteran and the fowler and the vagabond. Then we're going to take their miniatures and we're going to place each miniature in the district that we have on the hero's card. So for example, the veteran is going to go to the industrial district. The fowler is going to go to the commerce district. And the vagabond is going to start in the central square. Now each hero is going to take their 9 access cards, going to give them a good shuffle, and randomly taking 1 card, putting it on the Great Machine's area. We'll talk about it soon, you'll understand why. And the rest of the cards is going to put on the hero's place. Let's do it for the rest of the heroes. Now these cards are not supposed to be visible to the Great Machine, but the heroes can take a look at them whenever they want. Then the heroes are going to take 3 Riot tokens, the red Assault die and the green Escape die. And next to the word accessible to all the players, we're going to put all the bond/trust tokens that we have over here. This is not super critical right now for you guys to see, so if you allow me, I'm just going to put it outside of the shot. In the City of the Great Machine, we're going to follow through a few rounds until either the Great Machine wins or the heroes win. So it's not a definitive kind of game. We're just going to continue play until one of the sides win. In each round, we're going to have a few phases, and in each phase, we're going to have a few steps that we need to follow. So, in the first step of the first phase, we have reveal a new city event card. When we're opening a new card, we're going to have the title of it. In this case, it's Join Our Sides. And we're going to have 2 parts of it. So, in order for me to explain to you, let's take a look at other 2 cards and learn what is the difference. So in all of the cards, with the exception of the countdown card, we're going to have at the bottom part, the master plan advances if, and then we're going to have some sort of a condition that if this condition applies at the closing phase at step number 3, we'll get to that, then the master plan advances 1 step forward. If this condition doesn't apply, then the master plan stays where it is. At the middle part of the card, we're going to have 2 options. The first one is during the round only. That means that during the heroes are taking their action, or when the Great Machine is taking their action, the servants, or something that will give advantage to one of the sides or disadvantage to one of the sides, and that happens during the round. And the second option is at the end of the round only. And again, we have some sort of a condition or something that is going to happen only at the second step of the closing phase. So let's just read what we have over the card that we just opened. So again, the name is Join Our Side. At the end of this round only, each hero in a minor district may identify 1 famous citizen in that district for no cost if he's not detained. And the master plan advances if the Great Machine forced a detained hero to forfeit an access card during this round. Oh my god, everything sounds like gibberish. But trust me guys, the moment I finish explaining the game, we're going to go back to the card and you'll see how it's crystal clear. The second step in the opening phase is when the heroes are going to receive trust and the Great Machine is going to receive bond. So what is these tokens? Each token has on one side trust, and on the other side, bond. So this is basically our money, let's call it like that, or action points, or whatever you want to call it. With these tokens, we're going to take actions. For the Great Machine, if you take a look over here at the progress board, we can see that it's divided a little bit like a pizza, right? So in each slice, let's say like that, at the top we're going to have a number. So right now the dial shows that this slice is right now what's going on, and at the top we have 6, so the Great Machine is going to receive 6 bonds. So we have here 1 token of 4 and 2 tokens of 1, and at the beginning of this round, the Great Machine is going to have 6 bonds. For the heroes, it's a little bit different. Each hero is going to receive an amount of trust according to how many famous citizens are in its district. So, for example, the Vagabond has in its district, which is the Grand Central, 4 famous citizens. It's going to receive 4 trust. And as you can clearly see, for the other 2 heroes, it's going to be the same. So each other hero is going to receive 4 trust as well. Very important thing to say is that for the heroes, the trust is not something that they can share with each other. So for example, the veteran cannot give trust tokens to the Vagabond or to the Fowler, and so on and so on, you understood? So each trust is going to be personal for that hero. After we finished with the opening phase, we're going to the access phase, which is the heroes choose an access card, and then the round proceeds to the Great Machine phase. Each hero has now 8 access cards. Each access card is actually allows that hero to access to a specific district. Now we have 8 cards, but we have 9 districts, right? So don't forget that 1 access card lies over here next to the Great Machine. So in order for me to explain to you why should a hero choose a specific access card, I think that before we're talking about the Great Machine, I'm going to cut directly to the hero's possibilities. What can they do on their turn? And I think that will be a little bit more coherent when we'll speak about the Great Machine. So when we're choosing an access card, we're choosing basically 2 things. First of all, we're going to choose with that card, where do we want our hero to move? So just because it's a bit more comfortable for me, let me talk about the Vagabond over here. So the Vagabond has these 8 cards with different districts. We have all the 4 major districts with the green icon on it, and we have only 4 minor districts with the brown background on it. Now, as a reminder, again, the heroes can look at these cards whenever they want, but it is hidden from the Great Machine. So we can see over here that the Vagabond cannot go into the industrial district. Now, of course, all the heroes can share all the information between them. So let's say that the veteran will be played by Mr. Schwett over here. I don't know, the Fowler by Cactus. And the Vagabond is going to be played by Onion Man. So Mr. Schwett, Mr. Cactus, and Onion Man can share all the information they want between them. But the thing is that they have to do it, let's say, out loud, okay? Of course, the cards are still hidden from the Great Machine, but all sort of communication between them have to be in front of the Great Machine. So it gives a little bit a feeling of a big brother, let's say, that we have, that the Great Machine have some spies and can listen to everything. So no SMSing, no whispering, no, I don't know, mail pigeons, whatever. All sort of communication has to be in front of the Great Machine. So when Onion Man looks what they want to do, first of all, they need to choose to which district they want to go. Now, movement is always going to come first, also for the Great Machine, but now we're talking about the heroes. It means that the Vagabond, for example, cannot take an action in this district and then move. It's only movement and then action. Now, each hero can choose to stay in their district, but it means that they have to choose the district, the access card of the district they're in right now. In the case of the Vagabond, it's going to be the central square. So just to make things a little bit easier, let's say, the vagabond is going to choose to stay and do something here. We'll talk about it soon. The vagabond is going to take this access card and going to put it face down next to the hero card. The rest of the cards can go back to the hero card itself. And the same we're going to have with the Fowler, and we have the veteran that will decide to go to the Commerce District. All the heroes now have chosen their cards, and basically now again it's going to be the turn of the Great Machine. But just like I said, I think it's going to be more coherent if I'll explain to you first of all what the heroes can do. Now what's going to happen, let's say theoretically that the Great Machine already played. Now according to the initiative order, right, from the lowest to the highest, so 1, 2, and then 4, heroes are going to resolve their movement and their action. So now the veteran is going to show his card, and we can see that he decided to go to the Commerce District and do something there. Hold on with that. So first of all, what we said is that we need to resolve movement. In order for a hero to go from one district, to another, they need to pay 1 trust per guard from a district they're leaving. So in this case, because they're going to go from the industrial district to the commerce district, they're going to pay 1 bond per guard. That means 2 guards to a trust, and they're going to go over here. So they went away from one district, they left one district. That district had 2 guards, they're going to pay 2 trust to the main supply, and they're going to move. Just like this. Now they can take an action. They don't have to take an action when they arrive there, but the movement have to be done. So just to make clear, the movement between the districts happen between all of these passes, okay? So obviously to move from this district over here, I'll have to go through here, but you can also choose the way. So it doesn't have to be the shortest. Now, as long as the game progresses, you'll understand why not always the shortest way is going to be the cheapest way for one hero to move from one district to another. What's important for you guys to remember that once the access card has been chosen, the movement has to happen. Now, before I forget, I just want to tell you that according to the rulebook, every time after you moved with one of the heroes, you need to take the access card and put it back in the deck. Now, because between choosing the access cards and the actual play of the heroes, we're going to have the Great Machine plays, then the conditions sometimes going to change. If, for example, we thought that moving from one district to another is going to cost only this and this trust, but maybe the Great Machine moved some guards or did something that now it's more expensive, what happens then? So when we don't have enough trust to pay in order to move from one district to another, what we need to do is to use this escape die. This is the green die that on 2 sides of it we're going to have handcuffs, and all the other 4 sides we're going to have a successful escape. So what we need to do is to roll the die and see what is happening. In any case, the movement will happen. That means if the veteran chose the commerce district, in any case, it's going to finish the movement over there. But what happens if we have this side of the cube, which is detained, we're going to talk about a little bit later. Now, if I would have rolled the die and we would have had this outcome, that means that from that specific district, I managed to go out. If I need to again move to another district in order for us to reach our destination, we would need to again roll the die and then maybe be detained, or maybe it's going to be a success, and so on until we're reaching our destination. Now, of course, heroes can be detained only one time, so it's enough that in a movement between the district that I have this die, you can stop rolling the die for other districts, just go directly to your destination and then resolve the detain. But we'll talk about it later. So now when we reached our destination, we have a few options. In all the minor districts, we are able to do something that's called incitement. It means that we can raise the discontent of the city by 1. That means I'm going to move this dial 1 notch clockwise, of course. but I need to pay for this action. We can see that we need to pay 1 trust per guard in order for us to do this action. So in this case, we have 2 guards, and that means that I need to pay 2 trust in order to do the incitement. So let's say that the veteran decided to pay these 2 trust, and then the die is going to move 1 notch clockwise. Another option for all the heroes to do in all the district is something that's called a standard action. The first thing that we can do is to attack a guard. In order for us to attack 1 guard, we need to first of all commit a certain amount of trust that goes between 2 and 4. When we want to attack a guard, we need to take this attack dice, okay, this assault dice, it's the red one, and roll it. Now, if the amount of trust that we committed before rolling the dice is equal to or higher than the number that we see over here on the assault die, then the attack was successful and we managed to break 1 guard. So of course, if the vagabond committed 3 trust before rolling the die, then or 4 of course, if she committed a 4, then we're good. She loses all the trust that she committed, it goes back to the main supply, and we're going to break 1 guard just by laying it on the side right here. If we committed, let's say that the vagabond has committed 2 trust, which means that it's lower than the number over here on the die, that means the attack failed. Nothing bad happens, of course, besides losing maybe a little bit of a mood, and the vagabond, of course, lost these 2 tokens, but nothing happens to the hero, and we finished the action. And of course, even if the hero committed 4 tokens, which is the highest that we can have, in any case, there's always a chance that the die is going to be on this shield mark, and that means that in any case, the attack failed even if we committed 1,000,000 trust. The second standard action that all the heroes can take in all the districts is to identify one of the famous citizens. Now, you might not understand yet why should we do it, but when we'll talk about riots, you'll get it. In order for us to do it, let's say again that the vagabond stayed over here, we need to pay again 1 trust per guard, per active guard, of course, that is on the district. So let's say, for example, that now we have only 1 active guard and 1 broken guard. That means that for the vagabond to identify citizens, it's going to cost only 1 trust. So if, for example, the vagabond still has 4 trust, okay, now to identify each citizen is 1 per citizen, right? Because we're going to have only 1 active guard, then she can do it 4 times and identify all of them. What does it mean to identify a citizen? In order for us to identify a citizen, we're going to take this token and we're going to flip it, and only the heroes, I repeat, only the heroes can see which kind of famous citizen we have over here. Drop all the names, it's not important. This is famous citizen number 5. Of course, the game doesn't expect for the heroes to remember everything, so we're going to put it again face down, but now we're going to cover all the corners besides the green corner. And that means that each hero at any given point can take only the identified famous citizens, take a look, and put it back again just like this. The next standard action that the heroes can take is to move the famous citizens between districts. Now it has nothing to do with the number of guards, but for each district that I'm going to move the famous citizen, I'm going to pay 1 trust. No, it doesn't have to be an identified citizen. You can do it also with the unidentified citizen. But if, for example, I decided to take this famous citizen number 5, right, and move it over here to the Grand Citadel, then we're going to pay 1 trust from going out from this district, and then another trust for going out from this district. And then we're going to put it over here just like this, again covering all the corners besides the green one. The next action that all the heroes can do in all the districts is a free action, and that is to receive 1 trust. If you remember, I told you that between choosing the access card and actually playing, we have the great machine that is going to play, then conditions might change, right? Maybe some of them will be in different places, maybe the position of the guards is going to change, and not all the time you're finding yourselves with enough trust to do an action. So this is a free action that you can do in all the districts, and that is to receive from the main supply one trust. This might be a good time to tell you that each hero has a limit of how much trust they can have at a certain moment. And this detail is written at the bottom part of the card. So, for example, the veteran has a limit of 8, and the other 2 heroes here have a limit of 7. The next standard action that all the heroes can take in all the districts is to start a riot. I'm not going to talk about it right now, just keep that in the back of your mind, and we're going to get back to it a bit later. The next thing that heroes can do is special actions. These special actions they can do only on the major districts. These are the ones with a green icon. For each special action that a hero wants to take, he will need to pay 1 trust per guard, per active guard that is on that major district. So you already understood that breaking these guards is something that is going to be very helpful. In the central square, we can raise discontent by the number of famous citizens minus the number of the guards. Let's say that right now the Vagabond wants to take the special action over here. Then again, going to pay 1 trust per active guard. That means 1 trust. So one of those is going to go back to the main supply. And we're going to raise the discontent by the number of famous citizens, doesn't matter if they're identified or not, minus the amount of the active guards. In this case, it's going to be 4 minus 1, that means 3. So we're going to move this dial of the discontent 3 notches clockwise. In the Tower of Law, a hero will be able to do one of the 2 options. The first option, I'm actually starting with B, is any hero retrieves a forfeited access card. So let's say, for example, that the Vagabond is over here. She wants to take a special action. There are 2 guards. That means that she needs to pay 2 trust. And then any hero can retrieve a forfeited access card. So these are the forfeited access cards. And any hero can retrieve one of these cards into their hands. And that means in this case that they will have access to all of the 9 districts. The second option over here at the Tower of Law is to cancel a published directive. Now we haven't talked about those yet, so keep that in the back of the mind, okay? I'm going to owe it to you, and we're going to go back to it when we talk about the Great Machine. The next major district is the Control Nexus district, and over here we have also 2 options. The first one is that any hero receive 3 trusts. So if the Vagabond is over here, for example, and Mr. Onion over there decides that he has too much trust, or they talked between themselves and he knows that another hero will need it or something like that. So also Mr. Onion or the Vagabond can decide that they're going to give these 3 trusts to a different hero. The other option that we have here, and this is where it gets quite interesting, is that we can reposition a district. When we want to reposition a district, we need to keep in mind a few rules. First of all, the district that we want to reposition has to have at least one of the sides open. What does it mean? That I will be able to actually slide it out or move it apart without moving something else, without moving another district. So here, for example, the art district will not be able to move, right? Because in order for me to move it, I need to first of all move this district away and only then take him out. So basically I cannot just lift it and reposition it. I need to sort of slide it out in some way and then reposition it. When we move a district, it moves with everything on it. So if I want to move, for example, this district, okay, the Control Nexus one, then I will take everything on it, the famous citizen, the Vagabond, the guards, well, the dice is not so important, and only then I will be able to take it and change the position. When you relocate the district, you can change it in any way that you want. You can put it horizontally if it was vertically, you can leave it in the same way, you can rotate it, you do you. And also need to remember that after we reposition a district, it still need to be connected to at least 2 other districts. So let's take, for example, this district over here, right? We saw that it has at least one side open, but here we have 2. I'm going to take it, I'm sliding it out. It means that I don't touch any other district when I do it. Then I'm lifting it. I can rotate it if I want, and I'm going to put it right over here. The last district that we'll talk about in special actions is the Grand Citadel district, which is right over here. Also here, of course, we have 2 options. The first one is to discard an unpublished directive. Again, something that we haven't talked about, so we'll get back to it. And the second one is to return one arrested famous citizen into any district. So if you remember from the setup of the game, we have 3 famous citizen tokens that have been left aside, right? They are actually considered to be arrested. So let's put them now over here. And in order for us to do this action, return one of the arrested famous citizen into any district, first of all, again, we need to pay 1 trust per guard. So right now, let's say again that the vagabond found herself over here. Thank you, Mr. Onion. Then in order for us to do this action, we'll need to pay 2 trust, right? Because we have 2 active guards over here. And then we'll need to shuffle all of these tokens, take one of them. At this point, and only at this point, all the heroes are able to see which kind of famous citizen we have. Here we have famous citizen number 3. Then they can flip it again, okay, for the great machine not to see what we have, and they can put it on any district that they want, of course, in the condition that it has a free space. When we're going to put this famous citizen, obviously we're going to put it when the green corner is already visible, because we already know the identity of this famous citizen. So just like we saw according to the game round, we first had the opening phase, and then we started the access phase. So after all the heroes have chosen their access cards, we're going to go to the phase of the Great Machine. The Great Machine is going to operate mainly through its servants, but also with the guards. Now, just like the heroes, the servants also can move and take different actions. Some of them are like standard actions that they can do in all the districts. Some of them are special actions. So the most basic thing, just like with the heroes, is movement. Now, every time the Great Machine is going to move one of its servants, they will need to pay 2 bonds for each district that they just left. So if, for example, the Great Machine wants to move this servant, they're going to move it over here to the art district, they will need to pay 2 bonds directly to the main supply. A servant cannot first do action and then move. First of all, they have to finish the movement, and then they can take the action. Of course, they can choose also to remain in the same district and take the special action right over there. The second thing that the Great Machine can move are the guards. In order to move guards, we need to pay 1 bond per district that the guard has just left. Now let's talk about the actions. So first of all, each servant can take only 1 action per round. So for the servants, we have 2 types of actions, just like the heroes. We have standard action and special action. Let's talk about the standard actions that can be taken in all the districts. The first standard action that a servant can take is the arrest action. So it means remove 1 revealed and active famous citizen token from the district. Now we have here a few new terms. Let's talk about it. So first of all, a revealed famous citizen means that a token of a citizen is facing up. Now we haven't talked about riots yet, so we can't really understand why would a famous citizen is facing up. Keep that at the back of your mind. We're going to get back to it. But if a famous citizen is facing up, that means that it is revealed. Now, what does it mean, an active citizen? So the more the game progresses, the heroes are going to push this dial clockwise. And every time this dial is going to enter this new area, this new pizza slice, okay? Another part, then they're going to activate more citizens. That means that there is more discontent in the city and more famous citizens want to join the revolution. So the first time that the dial entered one of these notches, okay, in this new slice, we're activating another type of citizen. So obviously, famous citizen number 1 is going to be the first that will be activated. The moment that the dial entered this area, citizen number 1 is considered to be active. When the heroes are going to continue and push the dial, okay, more and more famous citizens are going to join into this cause of a revolution in the city. So in the second part, citizen number 2 is going to be active, then citizen number 3 and 4 and 5 and so on. Later we're going to talk about what happens when it enters the last slice. So back to our case, when we want to make an arrest. So first of all, we already know that the citizen token has to be face up, right? He's identified, he's revealed. And then we need to make sure that he is also active. What does it mean? That the dial is at least in the first notch of that specific slice. This is citizen number 4, this is slice number 4, and that means right now that this citizen is active. So when we decided to make an arrest, we saw that this is facing up, we saw that he is active, and then we're going to take this token, going to flip it face down, and we're going to put it with already the arrested citizens. So we're going to give it a small shuffle. So right now, not the great machine and not the heroes know which token is what. And when the heroes are going to release one of those citizens, like we saw before, they're going to choose randomly because they don't really know which token is which citizen. The second standard action that the servants can take is to repair a guard. So let's say that we have this servant over here in the central square. The servant can pay 2 bonds, so he's going to put the 4 and get change of 2. To repair the one guard that we have broken over here, and that means that he's taking this guard figure and putting it on his legs again. The third standard action that the servants can do is something that's called raid. And this is where the game starts to be very interesting. So if you remember, the heroes first choose their cards, right? And then the great machine is going to play, and only then the heroes are going to take their actions. So let's say that this is the situation right now, and I think that with their next action, the vagabond is going to find itself here at the art district, for example. So what can I do? With these servants, I can move over here. I'm going to pay 2 bonds because I moved 1 district, right? And with 2 other bonds that I'm going to pay right now to the general supply, I'm going to try and do a raid. That means that I'm going to take this token right over here and I'm going to place it in the art district. Right now we don't have a lot of bonds, but when the game progresses and the great machine is going to have more and more bonds, you can do this until 3 times. So even with the 2 other servants, so you can set up traps this raid in 3 different districts. If after the great machine has finished its phase and now it's the hero's turn, and the hero with their card that they revealed is going to finish their action in the same district as the raid token, something will happen that is called detained. Now, if you remember, the last time that we talked about being detained is about the green die, right? When we want to escape from somewhere if we don't have enough trust to move from different districts, and we rolled it and we have these handcuffs. That means that the hero is detained. The same is with this raid token. When we have a hero that is detained, the great machine has 2 options. The first and the easiest option for the great machine is to advance the master plan by 1 step. So if it's right now on 3, we're going to move it to number 4. And it's getting closer, of course, to number 12. As a reminder, when the master plan reaches the number 12, the game is over and the great machine has won. after we have advanced the master plan one step, the hero can continue their turn as normal. Now the hero, for different purposes of the game, sometimes it's with cards or different effect, is still considered to be detained, okay? But is going to continue taking their turn in a normal way. In the second option, we actually have two mini options. Option number one is called No Trust. The detained hero discards all their trust and the Great Machine collects the same number of bonds. Let's say right now that the Vagabond finds itself in this district, okay? And she has, or Mr. Onion has 3 trust, and this is the option that the Great Machine has chosen, then the Vagabond is going to lose this 3 trust and is going to give it as bonds to the Great Machine. The second option that we have is something that's called No Access. And that means that if the Vagabond has finished their movement into the Art District, that means that their access card that they chosen is the Art District. The Great Machine can choose to take this card, you remember, just like we have over here, and this is the way for the Great Machine to deny access from different districts and put it over here. With the No Trust or the No Access option, the hero is not going to be able to continue and taking their turns or their actions. Now let's move on to the special actions that the servants can take in the different major districts. Each special action is going to cost 2 bonds, except for the central square. So the first district that I would like to talk about is the Grand Citadel. The special action that the Great Machine can take over here is to draw 1 directive card. So that will be an amazing time to talk about directive cards. Each directive card is supposed to give some sort of an advantage to the Great Machine. Let's take a look at the first card that we draw right now, and that is Mechanize. In this card, the servants move for 1 bond instead of 2. This is going to be a super huge advantage for the Great Machine, because right now each movement from one district to another is going to cost only 1 bond. But this does not apply yet because the Great Machine hasn't published this directive yet. When they draw this card is going to be kept in their hand. The heroes are not aware of what they have right now, okay? But they do know that they have 1 directive. And even if the Great Machine, and by the way, there is no hand limit in this case, even if the Great Machine has not, doesn't matter, a few cards, always the heroes can ask the Great Machine, how many cards do you have in your hand? And the Great Machine has to answer the exact number. I'm taking you one moment back to the heroes' actions, and if you remember, there is something that's called discard an unpublished directive. In this case, the heroes can take a look in all the cards of the Great Machine, choose one and discard it from the game. That means that nobody will be able to touch this card again. Now, I tried to find this rule in the game, unsuccessful, so I'm sorry about that. If I did a mistake, please correct me in the comments. So with this directive card in my hand, I'm going to move to the second special action that the servants can take, and that is in the Tower of Logic, Automation and Work, or in short, the Tower of Law, which is right over here. So let's say that I have a servant over here. The special action here that also costs, as we said, 2 bonds, is to publish 1 directive that you have. In our case, we have only 1 card in our hand, right? But imagine that we have a few of them. We can choose 1 card that we have in our hand and publish it. What does it mean? It means that we're going to put this face up, available to see for all the players, and this is effective immediately. So whatever we have here applies starting from now. So if for the first action with this servant right now, I moved over here and I published this directive card, it means that for the other servants, they can already move for 1 bond instead of 2. There is a limit of 3 published directive cards. That means that if I have right now 3 cards that are facing up, if I want to publish another one, just as a reminder, because it was in my hand first, I drew it, and then I want to publish it, I will not be able to have a 4th unpublished directive card, I will need to take one of these cards back into my hand, not discarded, not back into the pile, and then I can publish another one. When the deck of the directive cards is finished, I'm not be able to draw more cards. So now, again, I'm taking you back. We had with the heroes two options, right? One is to discard one unpublished directive card, that means from the Great Machine's hands. And the other one was to cancel one of the already published directive cards. That means to take one of these three and discard it. That means it goes out from the game. The next special action that the servants can take is in the Control Nexus district, but that is exactly like the heroes. They have the opportunity to reposition one of the districts. The last district that I would like to talk about the special actions of the servants is the Central Square district, which is right over here. So if I have a servant over here, the special action that they can take is to receive the amount of bonds equal to the amount of famous citizens minus the number of guards. So right now we have here 5 famous citizens minus 2. That means that the Great Machine is going to take 3 bonds into their playing area. Now I would like, with your permission, to take you back to something super important in this game. That is the only way for the heroes to win the game, and that is starting a riot. So at some point the heroes will know most, if not all, the famous citizens that we have over here. So it's not supposed to be like this, but let's just look on the other side for one moment, okay? Because this is going to be a little bit interesting. So here in the famous citizens, we see that we have 3 types of citizens. The first type is famous citizen number 3. The second type of famous citizen is number 4 that we have over here. And we have another type of citizen that we haven't talked about, and that is the trader. So let's say that the heroes are aware of all the citizens that are present over here. The Great Machine, of course, have no idea what's going on over here. And we want to start a riot. First of all, in order for the heroes to start a riot, the heroes must pay 1 trust per guard for each citizen in the district that hasn't been previously identified. So let's say that the vagabond wants to start a riot in this district. She will need to pay 2 trust, right? Because we have 1 unidentified citizen and 2 guards. If we had 2 unidentified citizens, we would need to pay 4 trust, right? 2 times 2. If all the citizens are identified, that means that all the green squares are revealed. Basically, the vagabond can start here a riot for free. Now it's time to flip all of these tokens and reveal who they really are, so the Great Machine can see also. And now we're basically counting. First of all, we're going to see how many traders we have right now. We identified 1 trader, so we're going to put it over here next to the guards for 1 moment. Then we're going to count how many citizens are active. What does it mean? So as a reminder, with the level of discontent rising in the city, more and more famous citizens are going to join to our cause. So right now, we see that the dial over here is aiming to famous citizen number 4. So we know that citizen number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are active, right? Over here, we can see that we have 2 citizens number 3 that are already active, and 1 is citizen number 4 also active. So we have 3 active citizens. If, just for the example, we would have revealed another citizen here, but we see that this is famous citizen number 5, and citizen number 5 is not yet active. That means that citizen number 5 hasn't joined our cause yet. So we're not going to count him. He's going to stay neutral. If we have more active citizens than guards and traders together, then the riot is a success. We're going to take 1 riot token, put it over here to show us that that was a success, and also that we cannot do another riot in this district. And also, all the guards that were in this district are going to be broken. Unfortunately, this is not the case because we have an equal amount of number of active citizens and traders and guards, and that means that the riot is not a successful one. And that means two things. First of all, the master plan is going to advance one step forward, and also the Great Machine may immediately arrest any or all of the active citizens in this district for free. In this case, I would assume that the Great Machine would have arrested this, and these citizens since they're all revealed and active. So let's go back to the moment that this was a successful riot, okay? So let's take a active citizen over here and then another active citizen over here. Let's say that this doesn't exist and we have here only one guard, for example, okay? The other one is broken. So in this case, we started a riot. We have two active famous citizens and only one guard. So 2 is bigger than 1. Nice. And that means that the riot is successful. We're going to put here the riot token and we're going to break this guard. If this was the third successful riot, let's say, for example, that we had, I don't know, another riot over here and another one over here, and this is the third one, the game is over, and that means that the heroes have won the game. Another option that we have is if the heroes manage to raise the level of discontent to the maximum, that means all the way up to this red circle, then it's only enough for the heroes to do 2 successful riots. So let's say, for example, that the heroes manage to raise the discontent level of the city to the maximum. That's 1 successful riot. And then they have another successful riot here from previous round. If the vagabond managed to do here a successful riot, that means we have 1, 2, and 3. The game is over. The heroes have won. The last thing that I want to talk to you about is the last card of this deck, which is called a city event, the Countdown. When we reveal it, we can see that we have 2 things written on it, which is a little bit different than what we have seen so far. The first thing is that in each closing phase at step 3, we're going to advance the master plan by 1. The second thing that we have for the rest of the game, don't draw any more city event cards. Because the city is aflame, the ending is close. In the closing phase, we're going to take a look at step number 1. For each failed raid, increase discontent by 1, or at the riot stage, identify 1 citizen. So let's go back a little bit and say that this servant was over here and he put this raid token on this district, the art district. And let's say that the vagabond didn't decide to go over here. She decided to go over here to the Tower of L.A.W. The raid was unsuccessful. In this case, at the closing phase in step number 1, we're going to increase the discontent level by 1 notch, okay? But if it is already at the maximum, we're going to identify 1 citizen. Step number 2 is going back to the card that we have over here at the end of the round only. When we're looking at join our side, we have at the end of the round only. So this matches perfect. It says each hero in a minor district may identify 1 famous citizen in that district for no cost if it is not detained. So now we already know what it means to be detained. And the other thing that we have is the master plan advances if the Great Machine forced a detained hero to forfeit an access card during this round.